Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. All right, folks, now that I have everyone running and screaming, everything else from this point on will sound like gold. Yay!
Oh, God.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. So I'm Jen, and we have Brian and Hanno with us.
Hi, Jen.
Hello, Jen and
Hi.
Hanno.
Hi, Brian.
We have to reintroduce ourselves because it's a new year, and it's been a long time since we had a chance to sit down and talk.
Yep.
So lots of craziness, I'm sure, over the last few weeks for everyone, with the holidays and whatnot. So I guess we can jump right in and get started. Who wants to start us off and how their last few weeks have been?
I will.
I really wanted to quickly say is I've got the power words brought up, ready to go.
Oh, geez, I forgot about that. Yeah, it is time for that.
I got last year's ready.
All right.
So anytime you want to hear about it.
All right, we'll get
yeah.
we'll get
Go
to
ahead,
that.
Brian.
All right. Ooh, boy. Oh man, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks here for me. It's I was supposed to meet with my therapist about my assessment for like ADHD, and I couldn't end up making the appointment with her. I don't remember why now. Something came up and I had to reschedule. Oh, it was because I don't drive, so my ride actually was double booked basically. So, and mine was for therapy. The other appointment was way more important. So I was like, well, I'll just reschedule. Unfortunately, of course, when you reschedule like a mental health appointment, it's like a month later. So it won't be until like the 18th of this month, before I can find out what's going on there. But I did meet with my social worker. I talked with her, about what my psychiatrist has said about different stuff, and he wanted to know if I was, looking for, if I, he suggested that depending on how things go, that I go the next step and talk for the assessment, like, because this is just like a preliminary assessment. If essentially you hit, if everyone involved basically feels like you should, then you can go to where you actually sit down with like a psychiatrist or whatever, and they go through a more thorough evaluation and whatnot. So we'll see. If that's on the table, I'll definitely do it, because I just, like I said, there's the more and more I read, I see people posting these things of how it affects them, and I'm seeing more and more. I think what it is, seriously, was just the fact that I never saw anything that showed how it can be paralyzing. If I had, I almost feel like I would have had this aha moment a long time ago, because I've been paralyzed by these things for quite a while and not been able to put anything to it as to what is necessarily causing it. So, but whatever. Things happen when they're supposed to, I guess. So, we'll see where that goes. So, yeah, I won't really have an update on that for a couple weeks. But then, my mom's partner has had some issues, and we've been, helping take care of him. And then he had to go into the hospital because things got a little worse. And, so that's, the last couple of days have been kind of a nightmare for my mom. And she's all sorts of frazzled and whatnot. And of course, it's like I want her to feel better and whatnot, but I also can't fix it. There's no real fix right now. It's all you can do is help and do what you can in the process. Just trying to help her relax, if nothing else, because she's so stressed that, like just remembering to breathe and to eat and, self-care stuff is the best way to help. A lot of times when people get into these crisis modes, no matter what the scenario is, because it is so easy to just overlook all of it for yourself, because you're, again, it's, you think of the plane with the oxygen masks coming down, and it's like, if you're a parent, your first instinct, I'm sure, would be, I have to save my kid, but they always tell you, put your mask on first so you can be of service at that point. But it's so easy, because a lot of times our instinct is to do something else first if it feels more important or whatever. And, that's kind of where that's been. And then my grandma ended up in the hospital, and I haven't really got much as far as updates on that goes. All I can assume at this point is I'm just kind of taking it as no news is, I know why she went in. So as long as I'm not hearing anything else, I'm assuming it's like, okay, well, nothing has gotten worse. So that's about all I can do on that kind of a thing. But, yeah, for New Year's, I didn't really do anything except, hear fireworks exploding from like 5:00 in the evening on here. And,
wow.
Yeah, I just was playing a video game. Cause I don't really care about the ball drop stuff or the New Year thing. It's just, I'm not a New Year, new me. I'm not a resolutions person. I'm just, as we've talked on here plenty of times, it's very much like, why wait until the new year? Just start on the path. Don't put it off. Just start. Don't, in 3 weeks, I'm going to be a whole different person. You'll see. It's like, why not tomorrow or now? Why put it off? So it doesn't, like I said, I'm not, and it's not an anti-optimistic kind of thing. I know a lot of people, they get to the end of the year and they start getting that optimism for the new year.
But I talked about this on Salty Language when we were talking about this a little bit too, and I was like, I just don't get how easily people will throw away a year. You know, and I always liked, like years ago, I heard Tim Ferriss talk about whenever something good happens to you, write it down, put it in a jar, and then at the end of the year, review that with someone, like if you have someone in your life, or just look at it yourself and go, wow, there's a lot of really good things that happened to me this year. You know, and like I said on there, it's like, I understand this has been a very tough couple of years for people because of COVID and a whole bunch of stuff, but I still think it's important to not lose track of gratitude and to not lose track of, you know, the little wins, as we talk about, you know, because it's like there's so many good things that do happen to a lot of us. I've seen a few people that are like, yeah, I'm not going to apologize. I had a really good year, you know, and it's like, good. That's awesome, you know, and other people, I've even talked with some people where they're like, this year sucked. And I'm like, yeah, but didn't this and this happen? Well, yeah, but, and I'm like, and you didn't die of COVID. So, you know, like, I feel like you're on the plus side for the year here. And like I said, I understand some people had a rough year, you know, don't get me wrong, but, I don't know. Like I said, I just don't understand trying to throw away a whole year just for, oh, well, this next one's going to be so much better. And it's like, is it? How do you know? Like, you know, I don't, you know, I mean, it's one thing if you're talking like sports to where at some point in the season, you're like, well, okay, we ain't making the playoffs. So this one's in the toilet. Next year though, you know, we're coming back, you know, whatever. That I at least understand. That optimism is what keeps you as a sports fan. But in life, that's no way to go. You know, you gotta find the wins and not lose sight of your gratitude along the way. So, yeah, I think that's probably about it for me. I don't really have much other than that. Oh, I will say this: the engine that I've been kind of, you know, running on recently, it finally hit a wall. You know, like I felt like I was kind of moving along pretty well and getting things done and whatever, and boy, did I crash into a wall, and I had a good couple weeks of just basically doing nothing. So
It's gonna happen.
Yep. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Still glad that I was able to do what I could do during the time I could.
There you go. And I actually just got back from my visit with my therapist this afternoon, and she asked me, you know, how my holiday was, and I said it was good. She's like, what made it good? And an hour later, no, I mean it was so funny.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Since my hour, let me sit back here. And the month of December, you know, as Brian can attest, Christmas is my jam. It's always been my jam. Always loved my Christmas. And there's something just magical about it. And it leads up to the new year, which I think the new year is very magical when we switch over. The one problem with the month of December is there's so many things that I love to do that I only do this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to jam pack everything into this one month.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, I can make candy anytime. I choose to only make it in December. I can make cookies anytime. I choose to make them only in December.
And you're not alone because, like, you know, you go in the grocery store and there's, you know, November on, there's displays of, you know, chocolate chips and various spices and different stuff for baking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in, like, April, you know, so much.
Yeah. So for some ungodly reason, I decide that the month of December is, let's see how much Jen can put on her plate and get done at one time. So, I proceeded to spend 24 hours or so total on candy making, another 8 to 10 hours on cookies and pastries. Plus, I had all, my brother came into town and stayed with us for 5 days. My mother-in-law came down and stayed with us for 5 days at the same time. So I had my mother-in-law and my brother. Plus my mother-in-law's dogs and our dogs. So we had 4 dogs total. Then I hosted Christmas morning breakfast, and I made homemade cinnamon rolls and an egg and sausage casserole that I put together. You know,
I'm tired.
Yeah.
and
I'd have
that's
just
not
been
even
like,
those
hey, everybody,
gathering.
I made a toast bar. There's the bread. Here's some jelly, and there's butter.
And that's not even I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 social gatherings.
Yeah.
The last between Christmas Eve and the Wednesday after Christmas. So, needless to say, come Thursday after Christmas, I was beyond wiped. In fact, way before that, honestly, at one point, my mom looked at me and she's like, "You are just like on entertainment mode." And I said, "Yeah, pretty much." I said, if I stopped talking and stopped like doing my jazz hands crazy routine, then I literally think I would just fall down and go mute. I mean, it's just either all or nothing at this moment. There is no in betweens. So, and yeah, she's like, "Okay, you sure you're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm not manic because my brain is not racing the same way. It's like I can feel the difference. I'm literally just
Really
over
busy.
over everything. It's just like I'm overstimulated, I'm over socialized, I'm over the top on just I'm redlining.
Yeah,
every single
right.
thing is redlined. And she's like, "Okay." And then
But that's a good place to take the temperature though, because that
Mhm.
all that stuff you just said is very similar to when you're manic. So it
Oh
is
yeah.
good to make sure, that you're not having a manic episode there.
And this is why, I mean, 1,000,001 reasons I love my mom. She calls me out on that all the time now.
Yeah.
Like now that I've explained to her what manic feels like and what it looks like, anytime that I'm acting even slightly like hyper manic crazy, she calls me out on it. She's like, "Are you manic?" She's like, "I just want to make sure you're okay. Do you need to take any more meds?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good."
Right.
She's like, "Okay, I just wanted to check in." I said, "No, I appreciate that." I said, "Trust me, I need you guys. I need everybody to do that to help me, see where I'm at and do my gut checks and stuff."
Right.
So, it was really, it was interesting. There was a lot of ups. There's a lot of, kind of sideways things, not really downs, more sideways.
Good.
Had a learning experience. We had a family gathering, and one of the family members is not vaccinated, and there were going to be some children there that were not vaccinated. So the topic came up to, what do we do? So what we ended up doing was the non-vaccinated person, we just asked them to FaceTime into the party. And they were okay with it after a little bit. But as I put it to them, though, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have a discussion about articles or numbers or science or facts or anything like that. Because I guarantee you we can both, go on the internet and come up with just an absolute ton on both sides of the fence at this point. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's not going to get us anywhere. I said, what I will say is 2 things. One, you need to take a personal look at yourself and say, okay, what's the pros and cons of vaccination versus non-vaccination for myself? I said, nobody else, just yourself and your daily life and the things that you like to do and stuff. I said, first, just give it a good thought. Whatever you decide, that's fine. I said, your choice. I said, but also keep in mind, we are all adults. And when we make decisions as adults, we recognize the fact that there are consequences to our decisions. So if you decide not to be vaccinated, that is your decision, and I fully support you. It is also other people's decisions not to want to expose themselves to someone who has not been vaccinated. It may not be the right choice, it may be the wrong choice. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is there is a consequence, and it may suck. But if you're cool with accepting that consequence, then so be it. Hey, that's your life. You get to make that decision.
Right.
And they thought about it, and they kind of, understood where it's coming from, and everything kind of smoothed out. Now, in the past, I'm a fixer, folks. Everybody who's listened to the podcast, you know that. I'm a meddler, I'm a fixer, I'm a setter-upper, I'm a, kumbaya, let's get everybody happy girl. So for me to be able to really take a step back and kind of twist my head around it and not try to do well, maybe if I say this to this person and say this to this person, and maybe we could get everybody to agree to kind of come together and put it aside for just this one time, and the family get together and very easily. In fact, I felt myself going down that path more than once, trying to how can I orchestrate this to make it work and make everybody happy and make this happen. And when I took a step back and said, you know what? No. And I made this a point that this holiday season didn't quite work as well as I hoped, but is no drama. I'm not going to let myself do that. I can only control me. I can only control my actions, my words, I am not going to try to manipulate others to do what I want them to do, even if I think it's in their best interest. It doesn't matter. Everybody makes their own decisions. And you know what? We had the party. The person was on video chat. They video chat. The little girls did a little dance for them. And told them what they got for Christmas and stuff, and it was wonderful and lovely, and we all had a great time, just fine. It all worked out just fine without me having to do all of this mental gymnastics and stuff that I would try to do, and the hoops that I would try to jump through to make things perfect. Didn't matter. It all worked out. And that was kind of like the theme of the whole Christmas for me, the whole holiday season, honestly, is whenever I caught myself getting too wrapped up into trying to, okay, well, if we do this here and do this here and we can make this happen here and, all this other stuff, I just said, no, as soon as I started doing that, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. No, this is done. I am just going to deal with things one thing at a time. And this is the way things are going to be. And that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And people can do as they wish. I mean, another thing, my dad shared with me that he did not like our Christmas tradition of opening gifts. We sit around and watch each other open gifts. And my husband does a stocking for everybody with a bunch of little knickknacks and goodies and stuff in it. And he doesn't care for it. Didn't want to be a part of it. And so originally I immediately said, well, fine, whatever. He doesn't want to come. He doesn't have to come. And I was getting all bent out of shape about it, or trying to think of how I'm going to present it to him to make him want to come and all this other stuff. Then it hit me. I'm like, no, here's what we're going to do. We're having gifts from 9 to 10, breakfast from 10 to 11, social from 11 to 12. Here is the agenda, folks. I sent it out to everyone and said, come as you wish.
Right.
Ta-da! Problem solved. If he doesn't want to come for gifts, he doesn't have to come for gifts. He wants to come, great, whatever. He wants to come at the end and socialize a little bit, then leave. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Off my plate. No longer my issue. I have passed the ball to someone else. And I found I'm so much happier because of it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So it's really been kind of a challenge to kind of just change my mindset on things and kind of wrap my head around it and catch myself to doing that. And then lastly, there is part of the family that we just really do not see eye to eye, but they usually have Christmas. But I gave the advice a few years ago to my husband that if you need to, if you don't feel that you can control what you are going to say or do based upon somebody else, I said, feel free. You just leave the house. You do take a few minutes, catch your breath, do what you need to do, then come back in and we move forward. If it gets too bad, we just leave. I said, we just make, polite goodbyes and we leave. I said, the last thing, because there's kids involved in the scenario, as well as some older folks. So I'm like, those are the important people. I said, you just gotta, recognize that there is no win here other than you being the bigger person and just stepping out if you need to. So Christmas Day, I stepped out 3 times.
Yeah.
I had to take my own words.
Yeah.
But I did it. Oh, trust me, I was tempted. But I did it. I behaved myself and I said, you know what? No, I am not doing this. So I just, politely just snack out the back. Just caught some quiet time by myself for a minute, got myself back together to a point where I felt I could control my tongue and then came back in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's progress. I'm getting closer to where I want to be. My therapist gave me some stuff to work on. She wants me to work on recognizing who's within my inner circle and who is not. So like the people who matter and the people who don't. Because as I said, right now it seems like you're putting kind of everybody in your inner circle.
Yeah.
And some people in your inner circle don't really matter.
Right.
To like you think, like
Right. It's the same argument I've had with, or conversation I've had with people when it comes time for who they're inviting to their wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you don't have to invite everybody. And, well, if I don't invite Miriam, like, why do you care? Don't give them that, like, you don't have to. It's your choice, Same in this, is like, you don't have to invite everyone into your inner circle, So that's an interesting thing, though, because it does. There's so many times where how many of us have said, well, I don't care what so-and-so thinks. And it's like, then why are you talking about it 3 weeks later? You
have someone in your inner circle that does not need to be in your inner circle. Yeah.
I feel like you care a little bit.
So, she brought that out. And she also made a really strong point. She's like, sometimes when you are really struggling to like someone that's really being not nice and not someone deserves your really attention, she's like, try maybe pity, because maybe it's not like that you're aiming for. Maybe if you can kind of switch your perspective a little bit and say, wow, it's really sad that they have to live their life that way.
Yeah.
Or how awful something that happened to them to make them like this. How awful must have that been for them to go through?
Yeah.
And really, hopefully, they can find peace, because obviously I'm not the one that's able to do that for them, but hopefully they find someone in their life to give them some peace.
Right.
And she's like, and I have a feeling that's more of the person that you want to be, because I told her, I said, I'm acting like the person I don't want to be. That's not propelling me forward. It's not doing anything good for me.
Yeah.
There's baggage holding me back. And that's when she mentioned that about changing my perspective on the person. And it's like, really? Not my inner circle, and not someone that I should be frustrated or irritated with, but more sad for.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting. A lot of ahas this year, so, or this end of year, I should say. So I know. How are you?
I'm freaking tired after listening to your December.
Thankfully, it's been
Wow.
super quiet the last
I
3
hope so.
nights. I've done nothing but watch. I've sat on the couch and watched Heartland and cuddled with my dogs. It's been amazing.
Excellent. Yeah, it's just, this is our busy time. We had so many people at the property staying live. A lot of owners, which a lot of snow. There's been some really long days, and but it still just amazes me how just generous our owners are, which goes a long way for putting in a long day.
Yeah, I bet.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and Christmas was just so my former general manager would man the fire pit on Christmas Eve, and most of the time he was there by himself. Every once in a while somebody would show up, but he usually stay until they did the Nutcracker on Ice over at Sun Valley, and then they have a torchlight parade, and then they have fireworks, and so he usually stay for the fireworks. And Sharon and I would usually go up the Green Valley thing. I've done it enough times, and it's just a madhouse with people. But we go, say hi to John, and then I said, I think I'll carry on the tradition now that John's not around. And it was really awesome. I got up there before my coworker was done for the night, and we fired up the bonfire and just kind of hung out for a little bit and chatted. And then eventually Sharon came up with Gizmo, and I just brought my little portable music player, put some Christmas music on. I was just hanging out, enjoying the view, and it was a beautiful night. And then right before the fireworks, John walked around the corner. I was like, awesome. He had this great
cool.
Yeah, so he and his wife Chio came down then, and she had this Havanese that they're one of our owners. It was her niece's dog, just beautiful dog, and yeah, we just hung out for a little while, watched fireworks, and went back and got up on Christmas Day and did just Sharon and I did the presents. That's it, super mellow, and went to work the next day, and then New Year's came around. I was asleep at 9:30. And yeah, I was watching The Witcher, and like by the third one, I was asleep on the couch. So funny. Like I didn't care, but it's all kind of a blur. Also, on top of all this, we had the annual board meeting, and that was a big deal. And trying to we got big change. All the big changes got announced. But our new general manager starts in first week of February, and that's very exciting. And hopefully our bookkeeper will still be involved with us as planned. But yeah, a lot of just stuff going on. And then our whole our county just got slammed with COVID cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, just and mostly younger people. It was kind of interesting. It was mostly the hospitality industry. Just sheer amount of contact.
Yeah.
People coming in from out of town, and people in the hospitality industry just have more contact than with anybody else.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Our tested rate, and then also some of the reason that the rate looks a lot worse because you also have days where no tests are being submitted. But yeah, pretty much it really ballooned. But overall, it was a great end of the year, and it's funny, Brian, you mentioned about the comments about the year. People kept walking in the office saying, "Well, glad to see that year end." I was like, "Why? Like what?
Yeah.
what was so bad?
Yeah.
I'm like, have you looked at the stock market for the year? It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, things are expensive, but also a lot of people got a lot better jobs that are getting paid pretty good. I was like, it was just odd. I was like, it was like people were just regurgitating what from the year before.
Yeah.
With COVID.
Right.
And lockdowns. So I'm just like, we've had nothing but. I got up and I told Kathy, I'm like, I've heard that over and over again. Well, thank God this year's over. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what was so bad about it?
Yeah, especially like you were saying, if you compared 2021 to 2020, I'd rather repeat 2021 than 2020.
Yeah. I mean, we were slammed all summer long with activity.
And there was no lockdown,
No.
there was, there's been vaccines. We understand a little bit better. It's like, I think overall, in a lot of ways, the quality of life under, in a pandemic, it feels like 2021 was better, and again, we're seeing, less deaths from COVID this year going in, so it's like, I don't know. I that's why I said, and it's weird though, because I even mentioned to Tony, that didn't start this past year though. Like every year people do that. They always just want to throw away the previous year, and it's like, like why are you so eager to throw away a whole year like that? It's similar to how like people are like, they just I almost just started throwing obscenities out. They just dump all over the week until it's Friday, right? Like you literally, how many people have you heard throw away 4.5, 5 days out of the 7 in a week just because you're working? And it's like, I feel like maybe you've got something screwed up here, you need to find some joy or some other thing, like, man, if you're completely throwing 5 days in the toilet, it's like, that's kind of on you also, so, it's like talking about how terrible Monday is. And it's like, it's the first day after a few days off. I get that. But it's also like, I don't know, Mondays, the jobs I worked, Sunday was the worst day of the week for me because that's when all the weekends of new release videos came back. Monday wasn't all that bad because people were waiting till Tuesday when all the new stuff came out. So Monday was kind of that, it was a return day, but it was kind of a lull in between Sunday and Tuesday. So it's like if I was going to dread any day, if you said what day in the week do you not want to work, it was always Sunday. Because I don't want to have to put away 1 million movies. The rest of the week they're all going out basically. So, it's like, but it's even still, it's like, I don't understand throwing away a whole year just because you can't seem to remember good things that happened through the year. Just because you've let yourself forget them.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's like, I was really happy to end the year with just a tremendous amount of gratitude.
What do you like? You mean sleep? Like,
yeah. That too. Yeah. I was telling you guys before we podcasted about dealing with my computer.
Yeah. And
trying to get it back up and running, but I'm like, well, I've got a laptop too, and that works just perfectly fine.
Right.
And there's just I got some new music gear that had me playing some guitar and doing nothing particularly creative, but finding time to relax, watch movies, catch up on TV shows, listening to a lot of books. There was a lot of days where I was up at 5:30, removing snow at my house to get to work and then do it all day, and not doing things that I wanted to do heading into the busy season at work. But it's like, well, this is what I have to do. And,
right.
But there's a lot of enthusiasm around me right now, and at least I feel, and a positive attitude. And to me, it's just, it takes like the whole idea of like, oh, now there's a fresh start. No, it keeps going. Whatever is my attitude right now, it just keeps going.
Right.
There's no shift needed.
Yeah.
It's I'm either on the beam or I'm off the beam, and I'm feeling really on the beam. I found out today we are getting raises. I don't know what they're going to be, but
Sweet.
I mean, my bookkeeper looked at my timesheet for the last couple weeks, and she said, well, if I shift a couple days around, because I took because I'm back to working Sunday through Thursday, I took Thursday, Friday, Saturday off for New Year's. And she's like, well, now you're going to get your holiday before your raise. So she shifted it around so I get the holiday as of the 1st. She just swapped some days. I was like, that's awesome.
Right.
Little things like I just said, a lot of, as much as there's just some unbelievable generosity from our owners, it was a lot of the notes that were the best. And the best part was at our annual meeting, I really didn't want to talk about projects and stuff, and luckily our temporary board president just teed up. We weren't going to talk about the changes that happened this year with our facilities manager, but he decided to talk about it, and it was reiterated how this was a big deal. And I was like, perfect, because I don't want to talk. I mean, yes, I'm going to tell them some things that are coming up, but for the most part, I wanted to talk about the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really important. And it felt so good to say, hey, this is how long I've been here. This is what I did before. The next guy, give him their name, 20 years. Give the next guy 10 years. Okay, our new guy that we brought on, how many years he's been working on the property with one of our contractors. And that just felt good to just to bring up the people that make our work happen.
Yeah.
And then and then say, and by the way, you're going to get new elevators, new carpet, and new paint, and some other stuff. But to be able to just talk about people, and I think that's what this is all about, really.
Mm-hmm.
As far as getting through the holidays, it is about people. It's people that drive you freaking nuts,
yeah,
and it's people that make you happy, and it's just a matter of what do you want to focus on.
Yeah.
And one of the I was just, when I looked up the power words from last year, and the main thing is I was just looking at the dates, and so we had on December 31st, and my word was attack. Well, a week later, my dog was dead, and our show was about coping with pet loss.
Geez, you're right. Wow.
I
didn't realize that's when that was. Wow. Okay.
So the next show was January 7th.
Yeah.
I mean, within 2 days.
Yeah.
3 days, I guess. And then we did that show.
Yeah. See, where'd all your optimism last year get you, Henno? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think it was it was an affirmation. I'm going to attack, and when I was just reflecting on it, I wrote down two things. It was more like accept and adapt.
Yeah. Because I was going to say,
year.
Instead of you, I'm picturing, if you were out, if you were going to, surf or bodyboard or something, instead of aggressively paddling out towards something, you were more adjusting to the waves as they came to you. But you were still trying to point your board forward, you weren't completely, and I think that's kind of the attack you ended up having on the year. Because, the stuff with your job and everything, I think it threw some waves at you, obviously, and instead of, you attacked them. You really did. You went at them, but you also took things as they came and adjusted along the way. I think that's kind of the best way of attacking, is to where it's not 100% offense.
I think that's an outstanding analogy, in that my how I saw the year was just jumping on the board and charging out into the water, and getting out there, and the first wave that comes along is just swimming into it and driving through it. When the reality is I went out into the water, hung out, I enjoyed being out there, and when the wave came along, I swam at it, I paddled at it, I charged at it, but once I got up on it, it was like I wasn't dominating the wave. I had to become one with the wave.
Right. Yeah.
And I had to ride it and go with it. And I think that's a great analogy, because every opportunity to attack was tempered by something.
Yeah.
Always. There was some little, it was the best year for growth ever, in that nothing went the way that like, again, one of the greatest things I was ever told was, by my first sponsor in sobriety, was to stay out of outcomes.
Yeah.
Just quit trying to control the outcomes. And I would go into something immediately thinking of the outcomes and shortchanging myself the moment of what was happening that day. But the moments didn't require, the moments required me to make adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
And the moments required, or in a lot of ways, I was being asked to check, to find my way through this, and not to shape other people's, and not to find my way by moving the other players. I had to find where I fit in, because I was getting into the outcomes, and that's not the way it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, looking back on it, this was it was a huge year for me, I think, as far as personal growth went, and the rewards have been tremendous. One of the reasons I love going to work right now is because what we've done.
Yeah.
I feel truly fulfilled, both on a personal and a professional level. It is interesting. It was something that my mother told me when I wasn't sure if I should move to Idaho, and she said, "You're going nowhere personally, professionally, and socially. You need to get out of here."
Mm.
And she was right, but I don't think I really. I mean, I found so much fulfillment in sobriety, so much fulfillment in music and all that stuff. But as far as like kind of coming full circle with like abundance, as far as just internal joy and happiness, that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
And work is, I never wanted work to define me, but it is such a huge part of my week.
Yeah.
How could it not?
Right.
My
Yeah.
relationships with those people are big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're great. It was funny. We had a party last week, and one of my coworkers, he has kids that have to deal with getting, onto airplanes and traveling and getting back to their schools. And so COVID testing is a big pain for him.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And he went out of his way to make it his mission that he was going to determine how we were going to have this birthday lunch at work with all my coworkers. He wanted it. And we were like, no, we're comfortable. We are all going to be in the same room. We are already around each other like crazy. And the first thing it says, is anybody uncomfortable about this? Nope. Does anybody have anybody from out of town, in their homes, or anyone that is, of concern? No. Okay. That's his deal. If he wants to act out, he can do it that way.
Right.
And yeah, there was some reactions to the situation that I was like, wow, that's childish. Especially knowing that it's like, this isn't about safety. You talk about numbers all you want. The bottom line is this: is if we wanted to, we all could have gotten into a car, gone to a restaurant in town, and all got around a table and eaten without, and had lunch without masks on.
Yeah.
Completely legal.
Very
completely
true.
legit.
Yeah. Yep.
Wouldn't it be better if we did it here at work? And his motivation was selfish. It's personal. And I get it. He's got kids that got,
sure.
They have to test negative to get through airports and onto campuses and all this stuff. Hey, that's then you know what? Then you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But you don't need to bring everyone else down. And what I loved about it most is, yes, we had a little gossip about it afterwards, days afterwards. But for the most part, we all had a good time, and we didn't let it get to us. And we were willing to stand behind our choices, and we weren't gonna, like today, everything was, business as usual. It was no big deal.
Yeah.
But that's where to me, that is a measure of what we've done, with that group of people. So, I'm thinking about like what I would have for my power word for this year. I'm actually at a complete loss. Like I feel, when the road ahead is kind of open and it's okay. And I feel like changes are going to happen. More changes are going to happen this year. And I feel last year set me up for it.
Just say you're open. I think open's a great word, that you're just open, not expecting, just open.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Open. It's, what I like about it? It's open is a verb.
Yeah.
As well as, in this case, an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so it has kind of a dual purpose. That's perfect. I'm going to go with that.
It's really funny because that was what I was going to say for me this year. Because like I made a comment a few weeks ago how I feel like recently in therapy how I've kind of unlocked part of me that I minimized or kind of hid away, and just so opening that is to my help team, but as well as being open to what's in front of me about whether I do or don't have ADHD, and whether that means medicine or a change to my therapy. Like I feel like there's probably a little bit of upheaval coming my way before, like just reorganizing the parts as far as going forward, and just being open to whatever is in front of me as far as that goes, so that I can, really make the headway that I want to make. Because I really did feel like as this past year wound down, I really was feeling optimistic about the way, again, opening those things to my help team that I had kind of shut off to them. And when I talked about some of that stuff, how very much they were like, oh, this makes sense. And, like then realizing, wow, I didn't realize I had shut off part of myself, and again, because I minimized. So now I'm trying really hard not to do that, because I want them to I want them to have all the tools they can have to help me. So I have all the tools I have to help me, in the process. So I think it's interesting how, much like you said, it's interesting that open is a verb and an adjective in this scenario. I think there's that, but I also think in ways, I think it's interesting, like how we're open can be different also. To where you're looking at like, I'm open to what the world has for me. And I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, really for me, I'm aiming more, I think, for the verb in ways, and that it's more about like finally opening the world to me, as well as opening myself to my help in the process.
So your word last year was persevere.
I feel like I did a good job of that. I feel like I pushed through everything pretty well this year.
I feel like you set a reasonable bar and you met it.
Yeah. What's
like when people ask me how you doing, I'm like, well, or how's it going? I'm like, well, it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
usually I get a chuckle. I'm like, hey, I set a low bar.
Right. Yeah.
It can only go up from here.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I think that also kind of shows where I was a year ago versus now. Is I really feel like I was, if I remember correctly, I think around that time, last year, I think I was going through a pretty rough depression around like December, January of last year as well. So that would make sense. And persevere probably makes a whole lot of sense, because I didn't really feel like I was going anywhere. I just wanted to make sure I didn't drown, basically. It really, I think, was where I was at. Whereas now I feel like I'm starting to kick and float a little more. Like I feel like this year it's like, hey, maybe I can swim. So, yeah. I think that's interesting, though. I didn't realize it's why I kind of like not looking back at them until we're well past them, because then you can kind of see if you really were going after what you were doing or not. And you're right, though. It does really feel like I set the bar low. But I also really feel like that's where I was at the time. I feel like at the time that probably felt like a high bar. You know, and the only reason it felt like a high bar was, you know, the water had raised, you know, or raised, you know. So like when the water kind of, you know, the floods go down a little bit and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I can, you know, or the other way, I mean, you know, so whatever. So, all right. So what about Jen's?
It was actions.
Actions, huh? All right.
It was plural.
Which means you had to do more than one of them.
Mm.
Do you feel like you did more than one? No.
I do, but honestly, in hindsight, the word I would have given this year was uncomfortable. Because this was a year that I was very uncomfortable in a lot of different things. Because if you remember, this is the year that I got my new job, the logistics job.
And felt you were out of your depths in that as well.
Yeah, I was completely like, I didn't know what to do. I was so uncomfortable because they really wanted me for the role, and that was so new, and the new job and just doing all this stuff was very uncomfortable. I had, you know, some personal finance stuff that was very uncomfortable. I had to have some conversations with loved ones that were incredibly uncomfortable. It was not a warm and fuzzy, cozy year.
Yeah.
But it was probably one of the biggest growth years I've had in ages.
Yeah.
Like, I grew astronomically in every way, shape, or form. It boggles my mind when I look back and like see my growth this last year. But I guarantee this is probably the most uncomfortable that I've ever been in, like, in my world, but good and comfortable.
Yeah.
It pushed me really to, in a safe way. It was so weird that, because I was thinking about this even the other day, is like with my manager, my current manager, she is pushing me more and more to make my own decisions. And to really, because now that she understands my skill sets, now that she understands where my knowledge lies in certain, like, I'll turn to her and I'm like, hey, I was going to do this and that. She's like, what do you think's the best choice? I'm like, she's like, what would you recommend?
The correct answer there is always asking you.
I looked at her and said, well, I would recommend going this direction because X, Y, and Z. And she's like, do it. Why are you asking me? Mm-hmm. And again, it feels so weird. It's so uncomfortable.
Right.
Because I'm constantly looking for affirmation, for acceptance, for green, you know. So yeah, it's just all of that this year has been that type of stuff that it's like, okay. So, but I think for this year, so action's kind of interesting. I have to think on that one. But I think for this,
can I interrupt you? Like, because much like with Henno, it's like I feel like you met your word, because being uncomfortable and you kept swimming. You know, you didn't hit uncomfortable and run away. You might have wanted to, but you didn't. You took that new job. You went in and you gave it everything you have, and have since been told that you're doing all right. You've made it through those conversations with people. You've made it through the financial situations a little bit. You know, it's like I feel like you haven't met these uncomfortable things with indifference. You've met them and taken action on them. And like you said, if you hadn't, there'd be no growth there. Yeah. You know, so I really don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Do you agree, Henno? I feel like that's, you know, I really do. So
because everything required actions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, you get punched in the face. It's like you can keep getting punched in the face, But
Yeah.
you didn't. You were like, maybe I'll take a step to the side so I don't get punched in the
Right.
face. That's an action, and then to counterpunch. So I do think you did a lot this year. So I definitely don't let that slip away. That you did really attack. Like you didn't just, like I said, you didn't just get punched and stand there. You were like, hey, I'm gonna react to these things, and that's all actions. So but I can fully understand what you said about uncomfortable, because looking back, I can 100% see where if you were like, if we did this to where it's like, hey, what would your word be for the past year? Yeah, I can see where uncomfortable could be your word very, very easily. Yeah.
Horribly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like stressfully uncomfortable. But yeah, again, it was such in the best way possible.
Right.
This year, what do I want my power word to be? I guess my power word to get to this year is
gravy.
Yes, gravy. No, I can't think of the right word for it, but I guess the best way to encapsulate it would be like what you were talking about, Hanno, which is don't put yourself in the outcome. Like maybe be in the moment.
Yeah, I would say present then. Yeah.
Yeah, present. Maybe that's
Present's a great word.
Yeah, present. Because that's really where a lot of things that I'm trying to work on are in my communications with people, is to really be just present, and have the actual dialogue, the I have the ball, you have the ball, I have the ball, you have the ball. Basic dialogue. He wants to have a dialogue with us.
No, he wants the ball.
That's great. Yes, he does. He always
wants the ball. Yep.
But even in work, in personal life, and everything, I'm really trying hard to focus on just no outcome. Just sit right here in it. Let's deal with what's going on right in front of us, and the outcome will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So be present.
Yeah, I think that's always a good thing. That's always a good place to strive for, anyway. Because we all have had our issues with being present. So I think that's a good one. All right, so kind of on a turn from this was something I asked on Salty Language, which was, and again, this kind of went with a Twitter friend of mine posted this on her timeline, and I liked it because, again, everybody toward the end of the year, really starts just flinging negativity out toward, the previous year, but is like, what was the best thing that happened to you in 2021? And I'll go first since, I'm asking the question. It's the same thing I said on Salty Language, basically, which was really finding that aha moment about how much I minimize things that have really, really just completely stopped me from living, like really shut doors for me. And, much like I did with depression, where when I finally opened that door to getting help, it felt like it was like, whoa, it's, like there's an episode of Futurama where Fry and Bender are living in Bender's apartment, and then at the very end, he's like, you could put your whatever in the closet, and he opens the door, and there's this whole huge apartment, and it's like, that's kind of the way I felt, was I was living in that closet, and I opened the door and was like, oh, hey, what's all this? And I kind of feel like that moment kind of has come back to me again here. So for me, that was the best thing, is really opening my eyes to more as far as my mental health goes, and maybe just my overall happiness and life and such. So what about you guys? I mean, either of you can talk. You don't have to both be quiet.
No, I will say,
I know you're both thinking. It doesn't necessarily even have to be like one thing. If you have it can be small things. It doesn't have to be giant, but the
highlight of my gosh, of my year is really, it's around control and just letting go.
Yeah.
I let go a lot of different control spots this year. You know, I started talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I rearranged the rules in our household so that I did not have the control anymore. I gave the control away. You know, in a lot of places in my life, I really,
Well, like you talked about, even like this past Christmas, letting go of trying to wrangle everybody, you know, like that kind of stuff. And I know that was not easy for you, because I know, you know, in your head with the Christmas stuff, it's like everyone has a place. You have to be here. You can't be there. You have to be here, because this is where we all are. And this, you know, so I know, you know, that was not easy, I'm sure. And so I think that's great, actually. You know, learning to not be dragged.
You, Hanno?
I think the best thing that happened to me were all the challenges at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Just because if you know, it reminded me that I still have the tools and they're available to me to find, you know, to approach my, you know, the week to week with the right attitude, and the results of it are they do disperse in the rest of my life. I mean, it trickles everywhere.
Yeah.
Just feeling, you know, it's more of what the feelings that went away. And I got to say the other thing, the best thing that happened to me, I have to say, is Benny is like, I'm so happy that I, you know, get to spend my days with this dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he is really something for me. I mean, he really is. Gizmo's is Sharon's getting a little concerned because Gizmo is becoming very attached to her, like unbelievably attached, because they spend all their time together. I'm like, well, that's what happens when you're with any sort of a Havanese mix.
Yeah.
They're Velcro dogs, but it also made it very clear that Benny's my buddy.
Yeah.
Like, he's my dude, you know. And,
sure. Yeah.
But it's more than just Benny. There's a lot of I would say this all ties together. The best thing that happened this year is new relationships.
Yeah.
And even resetting old relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. That's what's been great about work. It's been great about my personal life. You know, friendships, that kind of stuff is opportunities to find new relationships and reset old ones.
Yeah. I think, like, if I were, like, for like all of us together, I really think growth is our word for 2021, because I really feel like we all found a lot of growth this year. You know, I really did. And in ways I think none of us expected also.
It's true.
You know, like, even though you knew what was coming with work, I don't know if you knew the full breadth of, like you were just saying, like, how far out into your life that the butterfly effect of that was. You know, that it wasn't just, okay, work's nicer. It's like, no, you're happier doing other things in other parts of your life. And you know that the way things have happened with stuff at work has improved the lives of your coworkers, and that makes you feel good. And, you know, that those ripples really kind of go way out. And, you know, Jen, seeing the stuff that you've seen as you've been uncomfortable and pushed through and really shown your worth and been told your worth and whatnot. And, you know, and like I said, and with me, I don't think I ever thought for a second that I really think I was kind of getting to a point where I was pretty resigned, that I was like, well, this is just life now. Like, I'm just a person. I have depression and anxiety, and I'm here, and there's nothing that really explains blah, blah, blah. And then to find something, like, any time in life, you know, when you find anything that you make that, like I said, it isn't about the diagnosis as much as it's like, well, now I fully am embracing that these things really hurt me, and bother me, and I want to change those things. So now it's, and that was, and really trying to like minimize the minimizing so that I can really, maximize the maximize, I guess. I don't know, whatever, it's like, but so it's like, I think it's kind of cool that we all really, I feel like we really all took a good step this year, and obviously, there's always drawbacks, but I think overall, at least from the podcast and the mental health part of things, I really feel like we took a big step the right way this year. So, hopefully, here's to more of it in 2022, of course, and hopefully people listening also, can really take listening to us talk about the things that we've learned and grown from this year, and also, find those things for themselves. Because again, it's like, please don't just throw away last year. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's like, hey, I got divorced and, I lost this and I lost, sometimes there's just years where
country song.
Yeah, you really feel like it was a throwaway year. Hey, I've had them. I understand. We've all kind of been there, but just really try not to lose sight of where you're at on the path, because there's a lot of things that can really, I don't know. It's just like I said. I hate how easy it is, especially right now. Everybody, there's so much kind of uncertainty and negativity kind of hanging over people. It's like, just don't give in to that. If you can help it. Again, understand, easier said than done. And also a whole lot easier for me to do than it was when we started this podcast. Hey, Brian, are you the positivity guy? Nope. So here I am bringing the positivity to, at times. So, and I'm okay with that. And I love too, like, even when my therapist and stuff, that when they point it out, because they've been dealing with me for years now, and when they'll even say stuff, like, or even tell me, like, I love when you come in, because, and it's like, it just sounds so weird, but I understand it, because I'm generally not coming in like, complain, or if I do, I'm like, okay, now what can we do about this? Like, let's fix this, like, let's go, and, yeah, so, yeah, anyway, there you go. Good riddance, 2021. No. Get out of here. Go on, get.
I think it's safe to say that we covered a lot of ground today. And are we good, guys?
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I'm
okay,
good.
Cool.
I think that was a good one.
All right. So we covered a lot of ground. We shared a lot of information, both personally and little nuggets for you to think on. So if you have comments, concerns, questions, pretty much anything at all that you would like to say to us, you know what you can do. You can reach us at the Crazy Life Podcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. And if you would like to talk to me directly, just go ahead and put my name in the email that you shoot over to us, because I'm still kind of doing a social media hiatus right now. But feel free to email me anytime. I'd love to hear from you. And Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, along with Instagram. Find me on Twitter at IdaHenno. And if you want, you can check out my other podcast, Movie Needle Podcast, where we mostly talk about movies these days. And we will have, I need to get it edited, but next week we reviewed another foreign surrealistic French film by the director Louis Benoit, and it's called That Obscure Object of Desire. And it was like a lot of these movies, we have more fun doing the podcast than actually watching the movie.
Yeah.
And this, even when it's this, this type of movie, which is very, artsy, or even like we just recorded, it's a concept I came up with last year, but we just didn't do it yet. Donner Party, because the director Richard Donner passed away last year, and I wanted to do a podcast called Donner Party where we picked 2 Donner movies, and so we did. We just recorded it this week, and we did Assassins versus Conspiracy Theory, which would be Conspiracy Theories with Mel Gibson and
what-
Julia Roberts,
okay,
and
yeah.
Assassins is Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
And the podcast was way more fun than either of these movies.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So that's, even I don't know how many people listen to the podcast without actually watching some of the movies, but I think they'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what's funny is
it
some
out.
of the movies you guys have reviewed over the years. Like, there's some times where I'll go, especially if it's one I've seen and I enjoy, I'll go rewatch. But there's also some where I'm like, I don't really have any interest in watching this movie, but I enjoy the heck out of listening to. Like when you guys did, what was that M. Night Shyamalan movie on the beach?
Yeah, what that was called now. Old.
No.
That's it. Old.
Old, yeah. And I was like, after
yeah.
listening to you guys, I'm like, there's no chance I'm going to go watch this movie. And yeah, but I had a lot of fun listening to you guys just tear it apart. So yeah. All right. So if you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Stunami. You can find this podcast on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. Where I post when new episodes go up. Excuse me. If you, I totally lost. Facebook we can be found at facebook.com/groups/Crazy Life Podcast. We're part of, I totally forgot my other podcast, which can be found at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com, where you can find all of our links. And we just put up a new YouTube video of us trying various treats that were sent to us by a friend and fellow podcaster, Megan, and her husband, Cy. And, just us trying these very strange treats from the UK. And she had a podcast called Screams and Moans that I think Tony was on a few times, and him and I were on there once, and we had so much fun ripping up. What was that movie called? Ghidorah or something like that? It was a monster movie, and it was so bad, but we had so much fun.
It was a fun episode.
Yeah, so, and anyway, we're also part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com, so please go give other shows on that a listen. And if you're looking to start a new show of any kind, hit them up, because they're really good about helping people get going. And yeah, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of people out there willing to help you. You just, got to take the first step, which again, all three of us here know is very difficult, but we done it, and you can too. We believe in you and all that stuff. So, there's resources, like I have a few phone numbers and websites in the show notes if you need anything along those lines, or of course, just Google whatever, for help if you need it. Please check on your friends, make sure they're doing okay. And, especially, again, with everybody kind of feeling the way they're feeling in the world again right now with the spread of COVID and all this kind of stuff, just checking on everybody, make sure they're doing okay the best you can. Also, staying in contact with people can be really good for your own mental health, so you don't feel as isolated and such. So, there's that. And of course, please be kind to one another. When you're out, please understand people, for the most part, people are trying their best. They're trying to do their jobs. They're trying to help you, all this kind of stuff. So please be understanding. Please be kind. And also, please help someone if you can. And I think that's it for me.
I heard this great joke, Christmas joke. It was, when you're out there doing all your last minute Christmas shopping, please be kind to the retail people. It's not their fault that you waited for Mary's water to break before you went shopping.
Accurate.
Like, that was funny.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty funny.
And as somebody who's worked a job like that, 100% accurate.
Yes. Well, before we log off, one last thing I did want to mention is if you haven't already, go and check out on Netflix Queer Eye. It's the relaunch of the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy from the 90s, I believe it was. But the first season is 30-minute episodes, so you don't really get the full like feel of the whole thing. It's a little rushed. The second season on out is like hour episodes and stuff. But the whole reason I'm mentioning it is every single episode, there's something I've taken away from it for my mental health. It is so well done in how they approach each individual, what their needs are, what their things that they want to work on are. And it's just really awesome the way they do it. I will say there are some strong personalities all across the board, so may not be your taste, but go ahead and check it out. It's well worth it. So with that, everybody go out there, have the best week you possibly can have, and don't forget, wiggle those toes.